Hello, so we're here at the end of Wallaby Walk in Duggan Park, Toowoomba at the Mount Tabletop Lookout, the recently completed Toowoomba Regional Council tourist attraction. We'll turn around in a minute and we have a magnificent view of One Tree Hill or Mount Tabletop and the Battle of One Tree Hill. So hello, I'm Bruce Arthur from Ozarchaeology. And I'm on the track of the first Aboriginal resistance fighter, Multuggerah, meaning firefly man in Indigenous language. Young Moppy or Black Campbell, he was called quite a few things. And Toowoomba's most famous battle, in inverted commas, the Battle of One Tree Hill. So there's a blow description of the battle here at the lookout, but I've delved into some research and I've done my own take on what happened here. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Multuggerah, Toowoomba and Waka Waka people, and I pay respect to their elders of the past, present and those of the future. I would like to issue a warning to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers that this video may contain images and voices of people who have died. Now, what actually happened at the battle? There are a lot of different versions of what took place on that fateful day in 1843, and I'm here to try and get somewhere near the truth. So we're going to travel down to Blanchview Road, or Hodgson's Gap Road, where the Aboriginals attacked the Drays, to Monkey Watering Creek between the two mountains, to a spot where I think, from all reports, like Henrik Sleeman reading all geographic references from the Iliad to find Troy, I have read all geographic references I can find to find where the battle took place. So Multuggerah was the Pancho Villa of the Aboriginal resistance movement to white settlement in Queensland, the first combined resistance to white settlement from 1830 until he was shot in the Rosewood Scrub in 1846. So he didn't actually die at the battle. His father, Old Moppy, was shot out of hand by a white settler on the Downs in 1840, and young Moppy vowed to take six white lives in reprisal. So the first duty of any historian is to find reliable reference material. So I've used British Army documents from the Lancashire Regiment stationed in Brisbane at the time, police reports, and an excellent book by Ray Kirchhoff and Frank Ewer, which was published only in 2019. The first person to use the term Black War of Resistance was noted Queensland historian Bill Lorry, who in 1959 coined the phrase Black War in Queensland. He was convinced that Multuggerah, along with 14 to 15 other tribal chiefs, made a pact to make coordinated attacks on encroaching white settlers. There was a great meeting of native tribes, a TOR, a TWR, 14 or 15 in number, in the vicinity of the Bunya Scrub at Baroon Pocket near Maloney. These tribes vowed vengeance and said they were not satisfied with the revenge already taken. The blacks at the TOR were much infuriated after the public hangings of two tribal members for murder in Brisbane and the Kilcoy flour poisoning incident. Some of the background to this Battle of One Tree Hill. So before this declaration at Maloney, there had been a litany of offences on both sides. The first public lawful execution of Aboriginals took place on July the 31st, 1841, when two Aboriginals, Meridio and Newgaville, were convicted of murdering two surveyors at Mount Lindsay. The two convicted murderers were publicly executed and hung from the cross arm of a windmill at the Brisbane Observatory Tower, which is still there if anybody knows where it is. Hundreds of natives had been brought to the scene to witness the summary vengeance of the white man's law. There was nearly a riot by the Aboriginals who were forced to witness the hangings. Can you imagine? Unfortunately for the victims, it was later proved that the government had hung the wrong people. So rather than being a deterrent, this had the opposite effect, and further murders of white settlers' wives and the killing of many hundreds of sheep and cattle continued unabated. Another major incident which brought about this declaration of war was the poisoning of 60 to 70 Aboriginal people at Kilcoy Station. In 1842, frightened shepherds from Kilcoy Creek Station fled their outstation, and knowing that the Aboriginals would steal any sugar and flour left behind, the shepherds laced several bags of flour with arsenic. Records show that about 60 to 70, a big number, of people of the Gigaraba and Wooganbara tribes died a painful death as a result. So I'm here at Monkey Watering Creek, Blanchview Road, or Hodgson's Gap as it was known in 1843. So we've looked at the background to Toowoomba's most famous battle, and we're here near where the site where the actual ambush took place. I'm at the bottom of Tabletop, as you can see in the background. Look at the steep slopes and the rugged rocks up near the top there. No wonder the settlers couldn't get near them. So Monkey Watering Creek, an unusual name, but mentioned in most reports as the site of Hodgson's Gap. The new track hacked through the scrub by the settlers as a route to Toowoomba, an alternative route to Corman's Gap. I've always wondered what actually happened here. I've read several reports of this skirmish, and as I said before, I've delved into the geographical location as described at the time by various reporters. In his report, Queensland Land Commissioner Dr. Stephen Simpson in 1843 said, on September the 12th, 1843, the Aborigines stopped 3 bullock drays on the high road to the Darling Downs and carried away a large amount of property, having driven off 14 to 18 ticket of leave men sent to protect the drays. The Aborigines speared one of the bullocks for fresh meat. So Multuggerah and his war party of nearly 100 warriors at the nearest point between the two mountains. So this is the nearest point between the two mountains, and this is pretty close, I think, to where the ambush took place, because we've got Tabletop, the southern slopes of Tabletop here behind me, and the northern slopes of Davidson or Sugarloaf on the other side of the road. So Multuggerah and his party of 100 warriors at the narrowest point between the two mountains lobbed a few trees down in front of and behind a convoy of 4 to 6 wagons taking supplies west here up to the besieged settlers on the downs. Soon as the Aborigines attacked, the 18 ticket of leave men beat a hasty retreat back to Helidon Station to seek help. So none of them were spared at this point in time. So I'm here at the narrowest point. So this is very close to where the ambush took place on the 12th of September, not where the actual battle took place. So the squatters at Helidon Station quickly formed a hunting party and galloped back to the ambush site, but it was dark and they decided not to try and find the Aboriginal hijackers until the following morning. So the next day, the 13th of September, they came across some raiders carving fresh meat off a slaughtered bullock. The raiders vanished, and as the revenge party rode further up the high road to the Downs, Multuggerah and half of his party faked a retreat up the steep slopes of Tabletop. So I think here you can see how easy it would be for Multuggerah to fake a retreat up the steep slopes here of Tabletop. So I'm here at Tabletop car park, and this steep track here leading up to the summit to give you some idea of what the raiding party and then the squatters chasing them, what a problem they had getting to Multuggerah and his raiders on the top of Mount Tabletop. So they had no hope in hell of ever getting up there, and the Aboriginals rolled big rocks down amongst the squatters. So I've turned the camera around now and we're looking at the northerly slopes of Sugarloaf. So there's a bit of debate about whether the Aborigines faked a retreat up Sugarloaf or up Tabletop, but I think most of the evidence shows that Multuggerah and half of his raiding party took off up the slopes of Tabletop and not Sugarloaf. So the squatters at Helidon Station quickly formed a hunting party and galloped back to this ambush site, but it was dark and they decided to camp the night and attack Multuggerah the next morning. So the debate about the actual site of the ambush is well documented in Ray Kirchhoff and Frank Ewer's book, The Battle of One Tree Hill. Very good reading that. Commissioner Simpson downplayed the event and wrote, "The casualty list reads dead 1 bullock, injured 2 white men who were hit by boulders." So there was no prolonged battle, and also we note that Multuggerah was not killed at this time. So Kirchhoff, consultant historian at UQ, has a slightly different version of events. In his well-researched paper of 2016, he says, on the 13th of September 1843, after Multuggerah's ambush on the 12th, some 30 to 45 armed squatters avenged the attack. This vigilante group were forced to retreat under a barrage of spears, stones and boulders hurled down on them from the slopes of Tabletop. He's quoting from the Queensland Times, 9th of January 1897. Between 2 and several whites were severely wounded, but there were no white deaths. Unlike Dr. Simpson's report of the Queensland Country Life 23rd of August 1900, Kirchhoff says that the squatters inflicted severe losses upon the warriors during the battle. Indeed, farmers of Tabletop's lower slopes ploughed up skulls and bones on the bottom of the hill in recent decades. So I wonder if this could be the actual place where farmers were ploughing up bones. And Henry Russell, an actual participant in the vigilante group. So if you've lived on the Downs for a long time, you'll know about Henry Russell. He was an actual participant in the vigilante party. He mentioned that at least one tall warrior was shot off the mountaintop. So we will never know exactly what the casualties of this battle were. So not only do we have conflicting reports of the location, but now a report of several Aborigines being shot compared to Dr. Simpson's report that no one was killed. But we do need to acquire some of these bones that were ploughed up to ascertain not only their age, but also whether they were from Aboriginal or white people, and did they show any signs of trauma, like gunshot wounds. This would indeed clarify the actual site of the battle. The result of the battle, or more so a skirmish I think, was that the Aborigines won. We will never know how many Aborigines were actually shot, but the point was that it was the first combined Aboriginal resistance to white settlement in southeast Queensland, and an indication to the British authorities that trouble was brewing. So I'm Bruce Arthur from Ozarchaeology Toowoomba, signing off from another in my series, Australia's most famous Aboriginals.